Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to the ones I haven't seen, although most of you I have. But. Welcome to our first star session of 2017. And it's going to be a good one. That's right. If you've never been to any of these sessions, well, if you're brand new and you haven't had the opportunity to come, that's fine. You'll be in for a treat. If you missed all of them last year, shame on you. Don't let that happen again. So, no, our star sessions are here, obviously, to help you all. Today's subject listing presentation probably goes without saying that we have one of our greatest and finest to talk about that today. And we're hoping that this will inspire you. You know, I think it's fair to say all of us can continuously improve in our business. So this is an opportunity for you to get motivated, to get inspired. If the listing presentation that you currently have you believe is the best, you've heard Scott say this, throw it out and make it better. If you need help, you can certainly ask Seema. But there are other agents in each one of your offices that will be happy to assist you. Obviously your managers are there to do so as well. So again, this is all about being motivated and going out there and selling some houses, because 2017 is going to be awesome! So, without further, well, actually, I was going to introduce Seema. Seema, hi, Seema. Hi. But I think Andrew wanted to say a couple of things before we get going, so.
Yeah, so just had a couple things to say. So thanks everyone for coming out. This year, we're going to be casting the Star Sessions live on Facebook so that we can get people participating and answering questions. And for those who, you know, it might be tough to come out here, of course, it's way better to come live because, you know, you get to ask the presenter right then and there. But for those who simply can't make it, you can always watch live on Facebook. And I know a lot of you guys are probably going, oh, I'm going to kick myself because I should have just watched it live right now. But we wanted to suck you in for the first part. So, sorry, that's my fault. It's being a little tricky. Secondly, I know this presentation is going to be on listing presentations. And as you know, the listing presentation is on VAgent, and we've updated it with new data. So that is available to you as well. Your AAs have a new way to update your picture as well as the text that's on the cover sheet of the listing presentation. So if you log into VAgent and you go, oh, I can't edit it. Everyone except, I think, right now for Rockville, and it should be updated on the Rockville system soon, if not tonight, but I would give it maybe a day or two. We'll definitely let you know. Everyone else should have that updated. And Jen, if I missed anything, let me know. All right, that's all good. All right, well, without further ado, Seema Rodriguez.
Off you go, Seema. For those of you who don't know Seema, it's been a long time. I don't even know how long it's been so long, Seema. 18 years. There you go. 7. Who's counting? So marching towards 20 years. And Seema has consistently been one of our, you know, top 5 agents in the company. Fair to say, right? She needs to be top number 1, but you know, something to aspire to, Seema. But anyway, I've seen Seema's listing presentations. Truly, they're awesome. And I hope that each one of you will take just a little nugget away from this, maybe. And again, you are here for learning, so do ask questions. And Seema, go for it. Wow him.
No pressure. Okay. So I developed my listing presentation and sort of wrapped it around who I am as a person, because when I first started the business, like she said, it's been about 17 years. I kept losing listings. I would get the listing opportunity, and I would go out, and I wouldn't get the listing. But it was like the best thing. I still say to this day it was one of the best things to happen to me, because after every one that I lost, I would call them, and I would say, you know, why didn't I get that? Thank you for your time. I always did the thank you whether I got the listing or not, but why didn't I get it? And what I found was that several of the feedback initially were things that I absolutely was providing, but never mentioned during the listing presentation, such as they would say, well, you know, the other agent told me that she was going to put on a secure lockbox. Okay? All our boxes are secure, you know? Because I didn't mention that at the time that we were in the listing presentation, it kind of stood out to that client. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to do some research. I wanna know what it is that consumers are looking for. And I met, with a top agent in our area, it's been a long time, she's still, leading in areas. And I called her up and I said, can I meet with you for a short period of time? And at that time, she was known to have one of the best listing presentations ever. She still uses it, it's still effective, you know? And so when I called her up, she was like, okay, I have a half hour for you, because she's a toughie, you know? So she was like, I have a half hour for you. So I met with her and she said, consumers across the board want to make sure you're clear while you're there, that there's rules that are set up, and they want to know exactly what it is that you're going to be doing for them, even if you may not, you know, you may be doing it, you have to state it. So you're going to see a lot of my listing presentation, you guys are doing it, you know, you're providing that, you may not always mention it, and what I've done is kind of put it into a format that works for me. Two, I have intense, like coming up here is hard for me because I have intense like stage fright, so I was always concerned. Part of the reason my listing presentation, especially my marketing piece, is in a separate piece is because it's almost a cue to me, you know? That way if I'm sitting in front of a client, there's never like, where am I going to next? What I'm doing for them is laid out, it's cued for me, and you'll see it. You know, I'll go over it with you so you can see like what I'm thinking as I'm going through it. Alright, so let's start with the initial conversation. And what I'm gonna do is kind of my thought process when that phone first rings. So you get the call and sometimes they'll leave a message. In those case scenarios, if they leave a message and you're getting back to them, I always like to look up the neighborhood before I'm talking to them. Because I've noticed that sometimes when they're on the phone, they'll ask you something like, do you know my area? You know, and if you can mention their subdivision, it carries a little more, you know, oh, okay, she's more comfortable. So if you can, look at the subdivision prior to talking to them, if you have the address. If you don't, once you start working the areas, you'll become more familiar. For me, in the beginning, what I did was, because I was trying to become familiar with the areas, I started looking up, you know, different neighborhoods just for me, and I was driving around at that time to familiarize myself with sort of where everything was. Okay, once you're on the phone with them, you know, you establish the date and time of the listing appointment. That's the very basic. I always on the phone am asking them if there's any upgrades they want to share with me. It's always during the initial part. And what I've noticed is people like to talk about what they've done with their home. They're so proud of it. And it helps build a link with them if they're able to talk to you about what they've done that they're so excited about. Usually they'll give you a long list, you know, we did this, we did this, we did this. I'm usually writing all of that down because it goes into my pre-prep phase. And the majority of my listing presentation is spent in a pre-prep phase. By the time I get there, I'm usually super comfortable with that house. Okay, so you asked if there's any upgrades. Make sure they have your contact information, all of it, you know, email, phone number. Sometimes I've heard, especially some of the newer agents on the phone, they'll do the phone number exchange, but they won't do an email or a text exchange sometimes. And so you want to be able to say that to the client. You know, here's my email in case you need to get in touch with me. And then number 5, tell them that you will follow up with them in an email to confirm the listing appointment. Okay. This is going to save you so much frustration because what I found was, especially in the beginning, I would be a little frustrated because I wouldn't have confirmed the appointment, and it's such a bare basic to, you know, a listing appointment, but I wouldn't have confirmed the appointment with them, and then you're showing up right when you're supposed to, and they're not ready for whatever reason. So you kind of want to set that up in the initial phase of it. During this conversation, for me, there's sort of an exchange of, here's things I'm expecting of you in a very subtle, you know, simple way, and here are some things that you're going to get from me. and I'm starting to set up the rules of where that listing is going to go if I were to get it. Okay, top goal, try to establish some, always at the home, because usually I haven't seen the house. So establish some kind of connection and establishing initial rules of the relationship, and that's what I was talking about. So I'm going to call you and talk to you the day before you're going to hear from me. That's setting up a rule with them. That's an expectation they have of me at this point. I have some expectations of them too. You know, I've set up the appointment with them, I expect them to be there. So that initial phase of, here's how the rules of this relationship are gonna be, you're starting to set that up in this conversation. Okay, pre-meeting. Once the call comes in, you've done all of that, I'm gonna divide my listing presentation is divided into 3 pieces, okay? It's called, I call it the little book, which is basically this, and I'm gonna go over it. And then I personalize this. So currently, this is the package that is currently in the agent that Andrew was talking about for us. Okay, it is our listing book. Mine is personalized beyond that. So I'm gonna go over how I personalized it for me, but this basic package is available in the agent, okay? This, I always use these hard copy bind books. This is the new one. We used to have the old one with the older AveryHess logo, and this is our new one. There is never a listing presentation that I've done, it does not matter as to the price of the house, where I'm not using this. When you are arriving there with this in hand, it looks really impressive, and they're usually wowed by it, because the other side, usually, 90% of the time I'm competing. Even if I know them, in my mind, I'm competing. There's never a time I go into the listing presentation that I'm thinking I have it. Never, never. I've found that even when I'm interviewing with friends, they'll kind of indicate that I have it, but there are times I've heard, I'm gonna interview another agent. So if you're prepped for that ahead of time, I'm not usually too concerned when they're saying that, because when I'm going there, I'm ready for that house. So try to use this, it's so cheap and come and be Chris.
I just wanted to ask, how long do you normally, once you've talked to them, like how much time do you need between talking them and then making the appointment?
Okay, so my appointments, and you'll see why, I never make a same day appointment. I usually never make a next day appointment. And people have said, well, how does that work for you? Because, what if that's the only time? I absolutely don't do it for me. And the reason is, you'll see my pre-prep phase time is elongated. Usually for me, it's 48 hours across the board. And what I found over time, initially I would go do it, and then I would lose it, because I just wasn't that ready. And what I found is, I just don't do that anymore. I say, no, I'm gonna be ready when I get to your house. And so usually 48 to 72 hours. I prefer a 72-hour time frame so that my prep is done. I have rarely, even in my farm area, have I rarely gone into a house within a 24-hour period. If they're forced, I might do it in my farm, pushed, but even then, it's so rare. Usually in my farm area, the prep time is shortened because I know almost every house that's there. But with that said, it's even rare there. So we're talking about 48 to 72 hours.
Is it me? Sorry. And maybe you'll go through this, but if they say, well, wait, why can't we see you tonight or tomorrow? Like, how do you explain that? Like, I'm gonna be preparing.
I always, and you'll find about me, I tend to be super blunt, I tell them exactly what I'm doing. I am gonna be preparing to come to your house. In the time that I see you between now and then, I'm gonna be looking at comps, I'm gonna be getting your market analysis ready, your marketing plan ready. I need that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm usually very straightforward. During my listing presentation, people have said this to me upon feedback is I tend to be blunt, and two, I tend to be as honest and straightforward as I can to the point of like, we're setting up those rules. So I wanna make sure that those are pre-set up. It's like key for me in my listings, because I don't know about Virginia, I hear that you guys are moving listings very quickly. That's not necessarily true in Maryland, in certain parts. We're moving things very quickly in some areas, but there are some that are gonna be on the market, and if you have those rules set up with them, that, okay, here's what I'm gonna be doing, here's what's going on, they're okay, and they'll, go through the process with you, which is what we want, we're building a relationship. Any other questions? Okay, so you're gonna download this, at least I do, I download this. Okay. And I'm gonna call this the little book, because this is the big book. I'm gonna go over the big book with you as well. The big book for me has marketing only. Okay, and it's a totally separate piece for me. And I run through it in the same order with every client. One thing on this book, Andrew mentioned that there's a new one coming out. And so just right now I'm gonna go over this. My listing presentation is changing again, to match the new AveryHess logo, the new book. And I looked at it recently with Andrew to make sure that the new stuff is still gonna meet my needs. So, as he said, and Katja said, you're gonna be updating constantly. We're constantly updating as to what's going on. So this is the old one. There is a new one coming out, and mine will adapt to that. I'm still gonna use, the big book. I'm still gonna use this book. So just the logos are changing and things like that. I also have branding for me that's just for me. That's gonna get added. You're gonna see some pieces of that in here, but by the time everything's done, the new book rolls out for Rockville, all my branding's gonna be on that as well.
Just to clarify, the listing book is, or the listing presentation is already up on page, and the major updates have been made with the new logo, average days on the market compared to the industry in this region, and also that the little book that Seema mentioned, it also comes in a window form as well, and you guys should all have your an order form with the packet that you got when you first came in here. Yes.
Do you have the template for the window cutout book? I know one of our agents
Yes.
yesterday is that on the agent
Yep.
too?
It should be up there.
It
should have
wasn't
just
dated-
been
yeah.
updated probably this morning or late last night.
I got it last night.
Okay, there you go. We try to work quickly.
Okay. All right, so personalizing the interior book. All right, this is the first page. Okay, this actually was done, there was a study done in 2001. It held until 2008 about. This is kind of a key page for me. It's in the little book under the marketing section. Okay, I add this. And the reason is they need to understand, and some of the questions that they're gonna ask is gonna be based on this. So my listing presentation is super like research based. I'm really into like what that consumer's looking for. I'm usually reading stats on, where the market is going as far as marketing. A lot of my pieces are built on that. So if it's something that I heard a lot about, I accommodated for that in my listing book. This is one of them. And the reason I added this is because, generally speaking, sometimes you go into a listing presentation, and a lot, Washington Post carried a ton on this. They're gonna be in two groups, okay? It's gonna be the agent, the buyer that's with the agent. 64% of the time that's true. Those numbers are still intact. I think the numbers released last year, the ones released were that they're running 60 to 70, and that the anticipated turn on this is that it's gonna come lower. This is during the initial phase that they're finding the house, okay? So, because of that, I'm saying to them, okay, look, if your anticipation is that I'm sticking in an MRIS, because generally that's how agents find you in MRIS, but if that's your expectation is that I'm gonna stick you in MRIS and you're gonna be sold, that's not correct. Because 36% of the time, they initially are finding you somehow, some other way. That number has risen. As of 2 weeks ago, I heard the number is 46%. I'm waiting to corroborate that. I have a call out to a friend who does stats and things for a big company in our area, and he kind of said to me, yes, it's starting to be in the 40s, but they need to know that because I'm pointing out to them that, and this is going to change as I verify the new numbers, but for now, this is the verified number. 36% of the time, they're finding you somewhere else. So as an agent, I have to not just market to the agents that are going to bring in the buyers, which is what the majority of people do. They'll stick you in MRIS. They'll do some marketing and hope, things work. But 36% of the time, that's not the case. They're finding you somewhere else. So as an agent, I'm telling them when I'm reviewing this, because what I will do is when I'm actually with them, I go over the little book with them, and I'm going to go, like I said, it's going to come later, but I'm going over these pieces so you can see why I did what I did. And in this particular piece, I'm telling them at this point, 36% of the time, you're going to sell, by another method. They're going to find out about you another way. So I, as an agent, am not just marketing to this group of people, but also this. The more stats you have to kind of back you up, the more knowledgeable you look. Because if you can actually talk to them factually, I've noticed they're more tied into that. So this is a page that I have in there, and I make sure at this point, when this page comes up, that I'm going to be marketing to both groups of people. Okay, 2001. This is where we were. Okay, I know you guys can't see that. I'm sorry, I had to shrink. Business Journal. How many times have you guys, especially, I think some of the older agents that have been in the business a while, seasoned, let me say.
Seasoned,
Yes, seasoned, let me say. Seasoned agents that have been in there can contend easier with this. But how many times, like if you're starting out, because it used to happen to me all the time, where they would say, I've never heard of AveryHess. Anybody hit that?
Yeah, they still are.
Yeah, they still are. I don't contend it as much now, but I'm hitting it off in the beginning. Okay, so Business Journal printed the list. It is 2001. There's been no research done since then. There were stats released last year, and now it's gone more to a market share. This is what's happening in your market share. This is what's happening in this zip code. It's starting to go to that. Eventually, I'm going to change this to match market share by zip code, because that's where the business is going to. However, we were 2001, number 10 by Business Journal for the largest residential real estate companies. They're always shocked. You are? Well, yeah, that right there is us. Okay. I give that to them in the beginning. I go over it very quickly because I'm leaving the little book with them. They're going to be reviewing this after I'm gone. I have an hour 15 minutes. That's all I have with them. So I'm leafing through rather quickly, understanding that they're going to do their checks and review this after I'm gone. All right. So we're number 10. Okay, well, why aren't you here? Can you anticipate that someone would say, 10? Okay, why not 2? Oh, well, okay, so-and-so is, the other agent I'm interviewing is, okay. This is where I say to them, it does not matter what company you're aligned with, because it is the agent that is going to determine what marketing we are choosing. However, it's good to be on the page, and it's kind of putting in their head that we are a good company, because we are. Okay, so that's the reason for this. Once market share stats get released, the first of them came out last year. Like I said, I'm really into the stats, but first set of market share stats came out in certain zip codes, at least from Maryland. AveryHess is top 5. Okay, so I'm going to have those when I'm going into those zip codes. I've already started prepping for that, because that's going to be my next edition, and if I'm going into that code, I'm going to do that. I think that's true for Virginia also. I know there's several zip codes where I think you guys are top 5. that might be something that you guys, look into to kind of get over that. Okay. Stats for me. This is older. Also, it's like 2001, 2005 again. I bring them stats for me from since 2005. And why? Because 2005 was when the bubble burst. Okay. So I always tell them, prior to 2005, anybody could be an agent. It's true, and lots of people got into it. Lots of people did well. But once our market changed, the seasoned agents that have been there, that are working, we stayed around, okay? So this is the first page. This is under, so let me show you guys. This goes under for me. So you have the introductory page, the introduction here. And for me, this is going right behind the business journal, okay, or my stats. So it's going like here. It's in the front section. And I'm reviewing the front section with them when I'm there. I go through the book. So it's right there. Okay. Key thing on here. Performance so it's transactions per agent. We led in 2005. Okay, it's 2016, 2017. You're providing history, okay? You're showing them what we're doing after that. We are competitive with some of the other big guns, leading them at that time. Things don't change that much. They may change here and there, but again, we're on the page. You're getting rid of the who is AveryHess every chance you get. Every chance you get. All right, I'm gonna do these. Okay, so I don't like beating my own drum, you guys. But here's the thing: I've been in the business for 17 years. Okay, so this is what follows. Everything until 2015. Okay. When I did not have this section, obviously I did not have this section at one time. This section included for me personal reference letters. Okay, and I got everyone to write me a letter. Okay. What you're showing them is you're gonna work for them. Yeah, now I can do this. Sure, this is great. I didn't have that in the beginning. So, and all the research at the time, still true to this day, it's becoming more and more. In fact, I'm going to be adding back a piece, and I'll show you that at the end. More and more and more and more. Those testimonials are important. So here, if you do not have this, don't worry about it. Get a reference letter from everyone. I had one from Scott. I had one from Dave. I had one from my manager. I had 10 of them. One from my current job, because at the time I was nursing. So I had one from my current supervisor at the time, because it was part-time for me in the beginning. So there were 10 of them. It looks so substantial when you are going through with them to show that you're going to work hard for them. They didn't have to be long. Scott wrote me a great one, Dave's was great, and that helped. But if you're starting out, you could start there, if this is not in your portfolio yet. Okay, this is towards the back of the book. I'm super, super hard as far as when I'm going through a house, I'm super, super hard about what things they need to do. Because in Maryland, things are not always moving like yesterday, So if they fix their house put their house in the best condition that we can, I can get them more money. And it's so much better coming from somewhere else. This was an article that I took that had like a ton of hits. It was a big seller, and so I'm gonna keep this. I think the new presentation, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is gone now?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is gone, yeah. So I'm planning to keep it because it helps me when I'm going through with them, and this is towards the back of the book. Okay, so this is under the marketing section. And how many of you guys have used our AveryHess book? Okay, how many of you guys have never used the AveryHess book? Never done, okay, alright, then I'm gonna take a stop here. Plan to. Okay, I'm gonna take a stop then. Okay. This is our AveryHess book, right? Okay, so for those of you that never used it, we have the regular, hey, how are you from the owners. Introduction, it's always a letter for me, you know. It's not here on this one because I didn't personalize this yet. Up to a point, I'm not, you know, this wasn't used, I brought it as a demo. But then the business journal is added for me. Programs and services that AveryHess offers, that has not changed, that's still in here. My target market, stats for me, sorry, I don't know if you guys can see that, but stats for me. And then it's, the next section is your market analysis. That has not changed, the order of things has not changed in the new one. Thank you.
Right.
Then pricing your home. And it has like your general, some of these pages have changed because we looked carefully at it. Some of these have changed, how to accurately price your marketing plan. This is going back behind there, okay? And it's usually going back behind there, and then that's the rest of the marketing plan, listing, syndication, things like that, okay? So that is your book. Almost everything's included. All you really have to do is insert, okay? All right. This another. If it had, we looked at the articles, I put 3 of them in, I think I've removed 1 in the new one. But this is another one, you know, tips for selling. I included it because a lot of people had looked at it at the time and it had a huge hit rate on it, or it was an article that got read 1,000 times. I included that. And this is the 3rd one. Okay, so basic things, a lot of them say the same thing. These are gonna be in the new one as well for me. Okay. This is all the way in the back for me. What I'm doing in the first 30 days. I'm so sorry, I had to shrink this, but you know, it's your first 30 days worth of your job once the contract's received. Automatically, there's, you know, the assumption is, well, it's going to move quickly because they haven't had a contract. No, we're busy. So I kind of want them to see that. And part of this is the commission question. Okay. A lot of times we get asked, you know, can we get a commission or not? I'm going to address that several different ways, but this is part of addressing that. Because the article this actually was associated with, there's another agent who used this in a different format, but it was used to kind of address, like, we're working. Our time of working and why we earn what we earn is because first we achieved the contract and we're still on. So I kind of wanted to see that. Okay, that's my little book. The little book is then put together. And I add the public record. Of course, under the public record section, there's one for it. I add the subdivision comps with the customer synopsis. Okay, I always include with them the customer synopsis. Again, we only have an hour to 15 minutes with them. So including the public record at times with them, or doing that, it's called a shortened version where they have 3 pages all together. I just include the customer synopsis for them. That's put in the marketing section in there. And then I sign and date the pledge at the end of the book. Okay. This is the pledge. Do you know I lost a listing because I didn't sign this? She called back. They review these books inside and out. And I asked why I didn't get it. She goes, agent to agent, there was no comparison. She goes, but I'm looking for a detail-oriented person. And I thought, what in the world did I miss? You know, it's what's going through my mind. And she's like, there was a pledge at the end of the book. Now, I could make 50 different excuses as to why I didn't fill it out. But bottom line is, I didn't sign it. And she said, detail-oriented person would sign it. She's right, right? So, the pledge at the end of the book is signed. Sign it. So simple. Sign it.
You never
Like I
missed
said,
it again, did you?
Never miss it again. I never. It's the best thing to ever happen to me is when in the beginning I miss things. Because when I called back, they gave me the best feedback I could have ever gotten.
Did you sign it ahead of time or do you sign it in front of you?
It's signed ahead of time. You can sign it in front of them, but because it happened to me that I forgot it, I sign it ahead of time now. Yeah. But if you can remember to do it right there, awesome. You know? Also, I add this here, full marketing plan is presented. Because remember, for me, it's being presented separately. So it's this stuff, our usual pledge, and then what I'm promising them I'm going to perform for them in the house. That's what I'm signing off on. But please sign it. Okay. Third packet. As I have pulled comps, the comps that I find are relevant, I'm going to break those down for you shortly in an ERC, because a lot of the questions lately have been, well, how do you do a full market analysis to where it's like awesome and you know that house back and forth? I'm going to do that in a minute. But let's say that you've pulled the agent synopsis. For them, you're pulling the customer synopsis. It's placed in the marketing section. And for myself, I pull the customer synopsis with a public record for every house that I'm going to go over with them. Okay, this is one that I did, so you see writing on it. Okay, I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go over it as to why it's here. Okay, but initially it's going to be blank. And the comps are put together. This is my package, part of what I'm getting ready. So I'm getting ready the little book, and then I'm getting ready my agent synopsis section. Okay, big book. Here, across the board, every single listing I lost, the more I talked to them, it was a same theme again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You did not tell me you were going to do X. The other agent told me that. And the X was something so nominal, which we provide as agents anyhow. And I thought to myself, this is kind of shocking, I'm going to put, I said to you, a secure lockbox. I lost a listing because of that. All our listings are secured. So I decided what I was going to do is put together a marketing plan section that's separate. That's this book. And the reason it's in this book for me is 95% of the people that you're going to work with that haven't changed are visual. They prefer seeing something concrete that you're going through with them and not just you talking at them. Because you're going to talk at them anyhow. If you have something to flip through, 95% of the people are going to prefer that. That stuff hasn't changed at all. Now, as a millennial, you don't have to carry that, okay? As a millennial, you can put this and say, I'm going to take a tablet or your computer or whatever it is, and I'm going to show them how, savvy I am, and I'm going to roll this into something they're flipping through. This is where you match your clientele, I think, to who you are. For me, I don't have like a 80% millennial population. My population generally wants to see the big book. So I've kept it. I have one that Erin and I have now developed that goes to if I'm going to a millennial buyer and it's on a tablet. But my preference and where I am most comfortable is this also. So sometimes that comes across in a listing presentation is, where you're most comfortable with them, and you're going to kind of transfer that to them. So I'm sticking to this for now. Hey, if it changes and, they're like, that's antiquated, or ever get that on feedback, I'll change it. But for those of you that are comfortable with it, you can, instead of a big book, you can have a computer book. Okay? All right, in this big book. Okay, let me. Okay. Now I'm going to go over the big book with you here, so I can go over, and you guys can see kind of what's in here. But with that said, there's going to be a process that I'm going through with them, and I'm going to go over that process with you. Obviously, I'm not taking this big book out when I first get there, but I'm going to go over it with you here. Andrew, could you help me maybe?
Sure. And can we turn on the light so you guys can see it better up here?
fun when we're at a table where we're all comfortable, okay? And I'm gonna, all right, so let's do this. You're gonna start from this way.
So let me know what you want me to do.
Yeah. So you're gonna come this way. I have these pages up here, okay? But what I want you to see is I'm leafing through them with them. Okay, the first one, this is done for every house for me, okay? Every single house. If I do not have a picture of the house, I'll go take one, if I have the time. Sometimes, the majority of the time, it's an MRIS. But, okay, so this is one for me. And this is the first page of the book. Okay? And what I'm saying to them, this is a cue for me. Okay? What I'm saying to them is, one, here, your home is important. Okay, I use the word priceless, and there's no reason for it. That is the #1 used word, continues to be, for clients that are very attached to their houses and things like that. They love saying that word. And so when I did the research, there were like 6 of them that they just love seeing. And I was like, yeah, it is priceless to them. So I added that here. And there's no price on this, because at no time am I discussing a price in the beginning. At no time, even when they're pushing me. I am not, even if that's the only thing on their mind, they're going to go through this with me, and there's a reason for it. Okay, so here, we're going to be, and what I'm talking about here, this is a cue for me. We're going to be doing an individualized brochure for them. Okay, Andrew.
Oh, it was falling out, so I.
You scared me to death, Andrew. As you know how long. He knows I stress about the pieces, so. Okay, we're doing an individualized brochure for the house. My brochures look like this. Okay. The majority of the time, agents are using bifolds. You know, the ones that open and, so when I'm going in there and I'm presenting this to them, I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, so is there going to be one of that? Or like, how many are going to be in my house? What's, like, there's 20 of it? Like, who's making these? You know, kind of thing. Because it looks substantial, okay? The next page, okay, so the customized brochure. In your book, you can use this page. AveryHess already has that developed for you. So if you don't have to do priceless. If you want to use a different word, you can do that. Part of what I think we're doing here is to give you guys options as to what fits you guys the best. So pick one. You know, this is one that's already developed for you, so you can use it. Now again, all this is going to change. Logo and all this is now going away for me, so it's all going to get updated. You know, but you do have this in there. You can use that as your first page if you so want. But I go over with them. This is what their brochure in the house is going to look like. I do say to them, you know, the majority of the time you get a bifold, and 80–90% of the time they'll say, you know, when we were looking, we had a bunch of those. I've never seen one like this. It's substantial. And they are. They are. The pages. Realtor Inc. My next page of the big book is pictures that are not, Andrew, I'm sorry. Can you help?
Sure.
Okay, so this is usually sitting on a table, but here's my next, got that one.
Okay.
This is my next page. And what I'm trying to show them here is, you see these pictures all the time, right? These ugly, not perfect shots. I took them right from listings, you know, and they're like, you know, they'll look at that, and I was like, this is not what you're getting. You are going to be getting Realtor Inc. Who's going to come in and take your shots. You can use whoever. I use Realtor Inc. But I'm going over with them that their pictures are going to be professionally taken. This is a promise I'm making. Okay. Again, I'm going over with them that at this point, I'm covering both groups of people. Whether you're with an agent or not, or if you're coming in on your own initially, you are going to be interested in this marketing. Okay, custom listed cards. That's my next 2 pages. are the custom listed cards. On these, the just listed are sent almost for me for every listing. Every now and then, it's not sent for a reason or whatever. If that is the case, I remove that card. You know, if for some reason, I had a condo where she did not want it to go to the rest of the building. She just didn't. So I took that out. And she told me that during the phone conversation. So this is the next section in my big book, is that I will provide them with just listed and a neighborhood preview. Remember I said to you I lost the listing? They get told here, I'll put up a sign, I'll do a lockbox. This is, again, gonna get changed to our new fancy system with the new logo and, you know, it's undergoing change right now. But with that said, I'm covering that. I also tell them at this point that I'm gonna hire CSS to make sure that listings in and out are controlled by CSS, and that's a measure of safety that I'm providing them. They love hearing that. A lot of agents provide that but just never say anything. If you're gonna provide them with that service, just tell them, I'm covering that here, okay? I'm telling them the lockboxes are secure, you know, because they are, you know. Hey, Seema, can they walk in? You know, what does that mean? Can they walk in anytime? No, mine are from 9 to 9. If you want a more restricted box, I can do that. You know, but you need to tell me what that is. And they've done that. They'll restrict a box for me. They love having that control, is being able to say, I only want showings from here to here. Okay, you guys could do that with your lock boxes, so I do offer them that. Disclosures. These are Maryland required disclosures. I know you guys have Virginia also. We have way more than you guys do. It's kind of a running joke, yeah. So I'm telling them here, disclosures are pre-done. They're put in the back of the book, okay? And I remind them of this first short, that they're in the back. It's easy access to the incoming buyer's agent because they can just take this off and the disclosures are pre-done for them. During this time, I've also, in this book, just so you guys know, and Aaron might have put it on here, but no. Okay, so in here, what's in here for me is the pictures that are professionally taken. There's a letter from the client. Maryland carries all kinds of words you can't use. Does Virginia know? I know that you guys were less restrictive on words that could be used in MRIS and things like that. Maryland, it's almost, everything is on a, yeah, it's insane now. It's almost do not use, don't use a ton of words. Okay, and you can't line them up together a certain way. So with that in mind, one way around that is to have them write a letter. This is also setting up a relationship exchange for me. I'm gonna do certain things for them, which I've been going through. But there's things they need to do. They need to provide me with a letter. If they've hated living there, please don't provide me with a letter, okay? But if they have not, I need a letter. There are 3 things I want them to cover. These are the top 3 things in a buyer's mind when they are purchasing a home. Top 3, they have not changed. Why are you moving? Address it quickly. It's usually my first sentence, okay? Number 1 item has not changed. Why are these people leaving? So address it. We're trying to make it easier for the oncoming buyer, and we don't want thoughts going into their mind that something's wrong with the place, because it's, you know, not. They address it usually quickly. I tell them not to get real specific there. They're allowed their privacy, but job transfer, you know, whatever it is. 2, amenities around them. Number 2 item for an incoming buyer. What's around you? Now, I provide them with activities in the area that I'm pulling off the net. Those are all here. Malls, libraries, all that is here. I've included that. Well, Aaron has. You know, but they're all here. Okay? But there's nothing as far as, there's nothing as strong as when they're saying it. Here's what we use. We've loved living here. It's so, I get told all the time at settlement, well, they bought because of this. You know, like, we love the book, can you give us 2 extra, you know, at the table, we want to keep it, or whatever. And it's because they love those letters. They can be long, they can be short, but get to, as quickly as you can, no more than a page, is what I tell them. And then the last item is ease of commute. That's your number 3 buyer's items. I always ask them to address it. Now, we are not allowed to touch schools in any way, shape, or form. They can do whatever they want. When I'm going into a particular area and we're going live, so I'm not going to say the particular area because, we don't want to be accused of steering. But with that, if they're going into a particular area where those schools are highly desirable, we're no longer allowed to use highly desirable. Haven't been for a long time. We're not allowed to use several of those words that we used to use all the time. So they can write whatever they want to having to do with that. It's the last item, okay, on there. And then just to we hope you enjoy your stay. Okay, disclosures are in the back of that. Washington Post Enhanced. That's a separate page in that big book. And this is the one that I've used, actually. Can any of you guys guess how many people are getting the Sunday section real estate now? Okay, Scott, are you raising your hand?
Not yet.
Oh. Guess it. Guys, it was 1. Okay.
Of the 3?
Anybody know what the stats are on the Sunday,
Online.
not online,
Oh,
on the Sunday Washington Post real estate section? Anybody want to take a guess?
I know it's huge.
5%.
Okay.
I mean, we do online.
No, but okay. 3.
Mm.
3.
Okay.
Well, if you know that, you know that out of a group of, God, how many there are, Scott's the only one getting it.
No.
That's significant.
Just the name.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying? That's about right. On the listing presentations that I went to last year, and I asked who was getting it, not one anymore. It is because they've gone to the smartphone technology. Really, really important that you kind of know what's happening in the area, because if you're going to gear your marketing and you're going to be talking to them at that level, you got to know, what's going on. And the reason I started looking into it is I used to use the Sunday section all the time. The calls dropped. And when the calls dropped, they started dropping their advertising rate. So it went from $139 to $79. And then I got, I got one, they're running a special and it was $52. And then I got one that was $39. And I was like, okay, wait. Why is advertising $39? There's something going on. So I started looking it up. And lo and behold, their circulation had dropped. Because they had gone online. So because of that, this is a benefit that AveryHess provides. Okay, the Washington Post Enhanced is taken care of. Thank you, Scott and Dave. I make sure I cover that with them. This is the page I use. It has their stats. I cover it quickly. I usually just say to them, I will be going on the enhanced section because circulation rates on that are next to nothing. I'm not getting any calls off of that. I tend to be blunt, like I said. But enhanced package line, how many of you want to guess what the rate on this is?
80?
62. But it's a high. It's a high. It's changing all the time, but it's a high travel avenue.
Hey, Seema?
Yeah.
How many leads or contacts or how much do you generally get from
You're so
from this?
cute, because I knew you were going to ask me that. So Aaron and I actually looked it up before I got here because I was worried that you're going to ask that. Okay, so out of 36 leads, 40, I guess, 7 were here. Came directly, and they specifically mentioned the enhanced listing package.
And there's people who they saw your listing on these pages
Yeah.
and said, hey, I'm interested in
Yeah.
this.
Interested in that listing, or I have another listing opportunity for you. You have this house listed. I saw you in the Washington Post section. They never say enhanced.
Mhm.
If it is not enhanced, know the difference. Listing syndication provides you with basics. It does not provide you with enhanced. The enhanced section is just that. It's enhanced. You come up towards the top, and AveryHess pays for it. So let them know that. Mobile app. Thank you, AveryHess. Okay. Provided by them, we have the mobile app. I cover it with them. At the time of the listing, why would this be important? Because I'm like for a listing, right? This is a buyer format tool, correct? So when you're talking to them about these things, I want to make sure I'm tailoring it. It's different when a buyer's downloading it. What does it mean to a seller to have a mobile app? I'm sorry?
Extra exposure.
Extra exposure,
Easy access to their property.
easy access.
You don't lose the buyer that's interested.
That's it. That's actually the number one reason. You don't lose the buyer that's interested, because they're clicking in here. Also, we can get a history of what they've looked at and done, and you can kind of follow along, and if they're sending you messages coming through that. But that's actually the number one reason. You don't lose the buyer that we have. We have to tell them that, because any savvy seller is gonna say, this is for a buyer. What good does it do me? You're here for a listing presentation. I'm telling them that. Text writer. Gone. No, not gone from Maryland. Not gone from Maryland. And for Virginia, you guys are using, I've seen them in Donna's, I've seen them for you, email sign thingies. If that's what you guys are using, use that here. I use TextWriter, and I still use it. It's big for me. And the reason is, I'm telling them here, they never have to get out of their car if they're looking at that house. I get TextWriter calls. They're never asking me, Seema, what percentage of sale is off of here? They're never asking me that. They're saying, I have this. I have this. I have this. So they're coming out, if it's raining or snowing, they'll just text it, yes. Big things for me. If you're doing an email writer and you get it through that, do that. Donna recently mentioned to me something about there's another way of doing this, making their life easier. What I'm saying to them is, you're not getting a box, a crystal box for me, where the stuff is outside and then littered all over your yard. Okay, because they all know that. They all, generally speaking, if they've sold their home in the past and you're giving them a crystal box, the little open boxes that you can open, they're littered across the front, and then the owners are calling and complaining. I make sure I tell them they're not getting that. This is what they're getting from me. Facebook promotion. We just added that. Thank you, AveryHess. Specifically, Andrew and Jen have done a great job. Thank you. About Facebook promotion. A lot of my listings, thank you guys, have come in through the business page. They've put them on there. They have the option to do that, as do you. You too can have a Facebook page. This replaced for me the old On Video that went away, because I used to have an On Video section that I would cover with them. That has now gone because we don't have that.
I should say it'll be gone officially at the end of this month. So it's still in circulation now, but we only have that much time
I went
left
ahead
in
and
January.
replaced, because if I have a listing for more than a month and I'm promising that at the beginning that I'm going to provide it, I don't want to say to I don't want to have to call them and say, hey, I'm not giving you On Video anymore.
Right.
So I've stopped using it. That's gone now. So for those, my big book has now switched to this. This is the next page. They're getting Facebook promotion, whether be it through them or be it through a business page I'm doing.
Oh, and one other thing about the Facebook business promotion. So this is something, like Seema said, you guys don't pay for. We take the link from your listing page, we'll post it onto the AveryHess business page, and then we will share it to various local groups within Facebook. So many interested people will comment and request more information on the listing page, but sometimes they'll reach out to us, and then we'll reach out to you saying, hey, this person is interested in your listing.
I've gotten leads off of it. It's awesome. And I wasn't a believer initially, but they stuck with several of my listings and I sold a house through it. So thank you guys. But So this is the new page for me. This was just included. Listing syndication. Again, real important to kind of know what's going on. Listing syndication is a big thing right now. Okay, a big thing. Lots of controversy around listing syndication, and it's because we have some of these sites fighting for syndication rights to the listings. There's a big thing right now. Washington Post is running a ton of stuff on that, so if you haven't read up on it, it's kind of interesting. And how it's going to impact the industry is going to be interesting, specifically Zillow, you know, and what's going to happen with that. So I'm surely going to change my listing presentation once the bang up comes through. But with that, for now, I'm telling them here, you're in all these sites. There's a copy of that in the little book also that I'm leaving with them. But I go over with them. They're going to be featured in every site with those pictures. Okay? If they're asking me about the listing, so at the last two presentations, they started asking me about the listing syndication controversy right now with Zillow specifically. So like I said, if you're not aware of it, do some research. Be ready to like have that conversation because there is a fight, you know, going on as to what listing syndication is going to look like in the future. So. You got to be able to do some kind of a conversation on that, you know, so look that up. But right now you mentioned to them that they're going to be in all these sites. This is what you're providing with the professional tour. Did you raise your hand? Okay. This is individualized here, again, and it's put, so everywhere that I can individualize the package, it's done for me. It's like 6 times in there. So when I'm getting a listing, I'm asking Serena or Aaron to basically do my big book pages. This is one of them. And again, you're going to see that word. If it switches, I'm going to switch the word, you know, depending on what's happening in stats. So here, what I'm saying is, and it's a separate book, it's my cue, and what I'm letting them know is, this is what I'm doing for that 36% if they're out and about. Right? Because everything I've covered so far, a lot of it's online, they're getting cards, ads, all of that. That's that 36%. I'm bringing them back to that. Because I want to make sure that they understand I'm going to break the next piece. That's 60, whatever percent, 36, 64, that's without. So this is my cue. If you can individualize yours, they really like seeing their house again and again. They really, really do. And especially all the pages that you can individualize to them, they love it. Okay. Now, more research. So, ton of research. This came out in August of 2014. A lot of research was done in Scottsdale, Arizona, and what they found was that we had gone away from calling competing brokers, right? How many of you guys still call competing brokers? Yeah. Me too. I no longer called competing brokers because we have a competing broker site where you hit the button that says you're going to honor and not honor. You're going to honor every relationship anyway. That's a separate page for me. I'm going to come back. That's not the point. A ton of research came out in 2014 and said, if your house is within a 5-mile radius, competing brokers in that 5-mile radius should be contacted. It's not just building personal relationships with these people. What you're doing is pointing out the difference between your listing and that listing, which means you should have seen it. Okay, so I tell them here, I'm going to do that if I haven't already seen it. I will do that. This is going to take me 2 to 4 weeks. I tell them that right up front. Because it's going to take me a while to see the competing listings in their 5-mile radius, depending on where they are. They have no problems with that. The fact that I'm telling them I'm going to do this for them is really substantial. They're saying, so you're going to call. Yes, the goal, they found that the goal in the study was that it's not just, it's twofold. One, you're building a relationship with the other agent, which is crucial in our business. I think Scott says it 500,000 times, and it's true, is that this business is about relationships. You're gonna be in competing offers, you're gonna want to work with certain people, they're gonna wanna work with you. We've gotta do everything we can to build those solid relationships. So, I'm doing that here. And
That's brilliant.
I
That's
tell them
just
I'm gonna do
brilliant.
that. Thank you. I tell them I'm gonna do that. I will build the relationship with the client. That is what I get out of it also. I make sure I tell them that. There's no point in my hiding what I'm getting out of it, okay? No point in my listing presentation where I'm hiding some kind of hidden, there's no reason for that. They can go and look at the research online. They have access to everything I'm going over with you. And these are savvy people, so we need to meet them at that level. With that said, I'm also telling them as a secondary benefit to that, and to that study specifically, I am going to tell them the difference between those houses, between my listing and their listing. It's going to take me about 4 weeks to do. I will cover that. If I cannot get it in 4 weeks, I cannot cover everybody, I tell them, I will let you know via email that I wasn't able to get everybody and I'm finishing up. Because there's times that hasn't happened. 36 listings, you're gonna, that's a big promise, based on how busy you are. It may take longer, and if it's gonna take longer, I'll tell them. Individualized to their home, another page in there. Brokers open. Okay, so here, I understand that Virginia's kind of big on this, is that correct? Brokers open and,
Depends.
okay.
I like them.
You like them? Okay. So, if you're
They're
going
big
to
for
give
feeding
them that up,
agents, that's about it.
yeah. So, last year, I don't know if you guys know, but last year, flashing out, not Washington Post, but, it's the real estate, online, I'm flashing out, I'll come back to it. That's it. Thank you. Did a ton of articles that came week after week after week after week after week. And they said the exact same thing. Brokers open are becoming social hour. Not in every case, in some cases. Okay, well you need to be aware of that because they're gonna ask you. They ask me, what does this mean for them? And what are you promising them here? I address the issue right off the bat. Hey, I've noticed that there was some research, I want to tell you about this research that came out. Sometimes 60% of the time they'll say, yeah, I heard about it and I have some questions on that. Because if all you're going to do is hang out at my house and eat and drink and be merry, don't do this. And drop stuff on my carpet that you made me change, don't do this. But if you're telling me that you can sell this on an open, on a broker's open specifically, I want this done. So this conversation is occurring right here. If I am not promising them a broker's open, and there are times I am not promising them a broker's open depending on the listing in the area, I'm telling them that. Open house, I'm addressing that here with the broker's open. Okay, how many times am I going to do the open? This is the rules of engagement, right? This is the relationship setup. So I'm telling them, I'm signing a pledge that I'm going to do certain things. If I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to tell them that. Here I'm telling them, for me, generally, open houses, because the rates are so low on an open in Maryland in specific areas. Now, if I had a house in a certain area, I may do opens more often because they're effective. In where I live, for example, they're completely ineffective. I know that. I'm not going to promise them something I'm not going to do. And I'm not going to sit at a house for 4 hours and have, nobody come. So make sure you're telling them whatever it is that you're going to do. If you're going to do them once every 2 weeks, you tell them that. If you're going to do a broker's open the first time, you tell them that. But again, you tell them what you're providing them. In areas that they're very effective and they should be done so often, you tell them that. So you need to know. Now, here, people say, well, I'm starting out. I don't know, what is in an area. That's the one thing about AveryHess that is so awesome, that I absolutely love. We have 100 people here that will help you, that may know the area better than you do. You pick up the phone, you call them. There's never a time, I can say this, I love this company, but there's never a time I pick up the phone and called for help that somebody hasn't helped me. you know, and vice versa. So if you don't know the area and you're just not sure and you're like, I don't know what to promise them, how often do you think is good? You know, ask somebody, or if you're picking up buyers, so the information's been released, you know, like it's not a secret. The open houses are so we can pick up buyers. There's a top Washington Post carrying it everywhere. It's everywhere now. So if that's what you're doing and you want to do them more often, more often, go ahead and do it. Just whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to tell them.
I would also be like a little bit cautious even if the area is not an open house area, but the seller might want an open house, and you're telling me you're not gonna do it because the areas, you're not gonna get a lot of traffic potentially off of it, because you could potentially also lose a listing in that aspect, or vice versa, if you tell them you're gonna do an open and they want nothing to do with open houses whatsoever, because either they're worried about security or something like that. So sometimes when I go in, I'm like, what is your feelings on open houses? If you are, gung-ho about it, I'm gonna have an open house for you. If you don't care one way or the other, then we'll see if, you're in an area that the traffic, if it makes sense for people.
This is the conversation though, you're having that conversation. And I'm just saying, do it so that you are having a conversation. If they're expecting open houses every 2 weeks and you're not doing them, that really should have been set up in the beginning. The rules of engagement really need to be set up in the beginning. A lot of times I've noticed that, like, if there's craziness happening on a listing at certain times, it's like the majority of the time, it's because the rules weren't kind of set up in the beginning between you and your client. And so they're in control, and it's a mess, because, they're telling you, and you're like, you're trying to be the expert, and it's just, that relationship just does not work. You really want to, in the beginning, part of a listing presentation is setting up those rules of engagement. For all parties, people work better, all parties. You, sellers, buyers, work better when there are rules. Okay, so what you're doing, for me, that big book is a setup of rules. Here's things I'm going to do for you. Here's some things I need you to do for me. Okay, Relo Network. This is a page in here. We're part of Leading RE, okay? Thank you, AveryHess, again, okay? Automatically part of that. What does that mean for the incoming, for a listing side?
Is that in the book or did you make that?
I made that.
That's cute.
Thank you. You can have that.
Okay.
I'll make sure I get it to you. Correct. Incoming buyer face. Okay. You're talking listing side. You have to relate your marketing to that listing and what they're getting out of it. Okay? That's what that is. They're getting inbuilt buyers that are coming in. That's awesome. We need to tell them that. Generally speaking, when I'm at this page, because I've been leafing through, as you guys, I've been going through here for like 20 minutes now. That's usually about how long it's taking me there as well. Is I'm going through, that's about right, When I get to this page, they're like, wow,
Never thought of that.
I never thought of, really? Okay, because it's what it means to them. Buyers, incoming buyers to a listing. That's what you're relating there. Okay, that's my final page in here. I want to make sure they understand, because the next section I'm going to is pricing and commission, right? So I haven't covered that yet. It's coming, but I haven't covered that yet. So before I hit it, I want to make sure they understand value and what it is that I'm bringing. I've been covering it for 20 minutes, but I bring them back to this. Once you get an offer and my marketing has worked, please remember, I'm still on for 30 days. At a bare minimum, 45 sometimes. But this is it concentrated. Oh, I'll hear. That's true. We're happy here. Yeah, but we're not done. We're just starting. You have to remind them of that, especially prior to the commission call. Okay? Because, and sometimes they'll start pushing early with commission questions. There is no way I answer those until I'm done with this, okay? So here, this is what I'm doing. Do you have any questions? I say to them. I've covered the 36% that are out and about on their own. This is how they're gonna find you for me. And I've covered the ones that are with agents. Okay, do you have any questions? They're overwhelmed usually. They're like, no. Everything that I went over is also in the little book that I'm gonna leave with you. So when I'm gone, feel free to go through that. Every page that's in here is in here for me. And the little book is left with them. All right, do you guys have any questions on this so far? Scott?
Seema, I think it's great that you know, this from contract to settlement. This is a part that I think has been over the last whatever number of years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, increasing in complexity in our business. And I'm not too sure as many, even gifted agents, are devoting as much time to what you're really doing. Because Seema, your point was well taken. A seller's really happy they get a contract.
Here, they're done here.
Your work almost doubles from that point to get it to settlement. And that's an incredible thing to focus on and add in many of those moving parts and complexities. So that's great that you conclude sort of your book with that piece of it.
Okay. Tips for selling is again in the back, and this is redundant, because usually at this point, I'm moving to that next phase in my listing appointment. So again, this is there. All right. So I covered the big book right then, but remember I'm still in pre-comp phase, right? I'm still in I haven't met with them yet. That's what I'm gonna cover when I'm with them, but I covered it with you guys because it was just for flow. It was better to cover it right there, you know? But remember, I'm still in pre-plan phase. So with that in mind, for me, remember when I said to you guys, I have another package? This is the agent synopsis and the public record for the property. Now, I go and see those homes, the ones I know they're gonna ask me about. Because if you are doing only, this is for me, only for me, what I have found is when I go see the homes, they're different than those pictures. The pictures that are in there, oh my God, they're so many times, they do not, you're like, am I in the right house? You know, like, there's a big mold spot, you know, in I just did one yesterday. The pictures are gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I'm like, okay, they match exactly. My listing and this one's gonna be an exact match. I went to that house. They don't match. There's a big spot in the basement. There are all kinds of issues. There's an odor. I'm gonna be looking at 2 different homes. I know that. Okay, and you have to be able to reasonably speak with that. So for me, I do visit them. And I know people say, oh my God, Seema, I'm so busy. I get it, I am too. You know, I am too. But you have to see them, for me.
How many do you normally see?
It depends. Okay, we're gonna switch to an ERCBNA now. Okay, you guys, so, I know, I'm sorry, Karen. Every time, the same response. Yeah.
How many times, though, are your sellers wowed by the fact that you have gone into all to do the compete? I mean, that has to be.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example. He's not here today, but I know he's gonna allow me to say this, okay? But I interviewed for Dave's listing, okay? And I interviewed you guys because there was no way. Did I think Dave was gonna give it to me? Yes, I thought Dave was gonna give it to me. But you know, there's no darn way I was expecting it. So I went in. And when I went over comps with him, it was the funniest thing because what's happening while I'm there is you'll see, I have my notes from when I've gone in. So he would say, he said to me twice, hey, that house, that's where I need to be. Because, like we're similar. No, you are not. Here's the difference. Okay, and here's why. Oh, no, but if you look online, no. I went in, I saw that house. So they're wowed. And my stuff is on the table so they can see what I did. They know I'm talking to them about what's going on. they are fully well aware of the amount of work that's gone in before I've ever come to their house. Fully well aware. Generally speaking, I don't keep track of my rates, but if I'm getting into a listing, I know it's greater. So Aaron would give you a better analysis, but I'm usually getting it. Because I've done a ton of work before I ever get there. You know, to show them that I know their home. Okay, let's switch to this. How many listings do you see? Okay. Everybody have this? I know. I didn't love it when I first got it either. I was like, oh.
You do it for every single one?
Only when I'm having trouble. If I'm having trouble, Boyd structures me. And I found at the office, it's just, okay. So, about 12 years ago, thank you, I forgot to tell you, when I started doing relocation, they gave me this ERCDNA, Employee Relocation Council Broker Market Analysis. And when I first looked at it, oh my God, it's 6 pages, you know, and it's on and on and on and on. And I was like, oh my God, I have this for every listing. And then when I started doing it, what I found is it structures your thoughts. It tells you what you're going to talk to them about in the comparative market analysis section. You know exactly where you need to go, and it structures your thoughts. Now, I just did one. It's a custom neighborhood. I hadn't actually done one in a non-relo in a long time, but I went into this custom home section. Every house is different on these huge lots, and you know, and I was like, holy cow, these houses are like different. Every kind of house, contemporary, there was no duplication. This really, really helped me get that listing because I was able to talk to them about like, no, here's a breakdown of what's actually going on. Yes, it's custom, but here's what's going on. So let's go over this. Okay, for a listing that's non-relo, this is not important. Okay, that first section of, you know, hold on, like, Jen, can you come down just a little bit? Okay. No, go that way. Okay. This section, the agent information, hopefully you have that, you know. Just structure your thoughts, you can fill it in if it makes you feel better. It helps me sometimes to just kind of make sure I have everything I need for the client. So it does help you sometimes. So you can fill that in. But really, if you're going for listing and you kind of want to, you know, what is this worth? How many do I see? You can ignore this section here for non-relo. Okay. Improvement made by the owner. We talked about that in the first phone call. Okay. Usually, I've already spoken to them on the phone, so I'm putting that there. Because it helps me. When I'm going through the house, I can say, I appreciate the fact that you did those windows. Thank you for replacing the carpet. You know, I can speak to them back as to what they had told me. So this section for me is done in advance because I've usually discussed that on that initial phone call. Okay. Is the subject currently listed? Okay, well, you know, are you getting a second call? I get a few of those. Has it been there? Why didn't it go? You know, all of that. This will kind of help you structure in your mind. If it's been listed before, they're going to ask you what you're going to do different, right? So you kind of have to be ready for that question. So this will help you like get in that mind. Okay, it was listed before. I need to be able to talk to them about what's going to be done different. Okay, what am I doing? At no time, I want to reiterate here, those business relationships are important. At no time should you be ever putting down another agent or a company. I've never done that. I just really want to say that. I've had listings come to me, second, third, whatever, and the agents have called, the previous agents have called, and they specifically will say to me, we appreciate that I've never said a negative thing about an agent. Well, I'm going to do this because this wasn't done. No. You just tell them what you're going to do. I just went through with them what we're going to do. At no time should it ever be that you're blasting another company or another agent. Those business relationships matter. We have people in here, and I know, you know, Angie and Carmel feel strongly about this. That is repeat business for you coming again and again and again. You will see that person again. They will find out. Don't do that. Just tell them what it is that you're gonna do. But here, prep for that. Okay, personal belongings that are gonna stay, you're not gonna be able to do this in the prep phase, okay? Some of these are left blank at this point, because you're not gonna be able to do that right now. However, once you've gone through, it is kind of important to know what they're leaving and what they're not leaving. You know, how does that contribute to value? Okay, I have a theater system I had on this custom house that I'm talking about. Their entire basement is a gorgeous media center. They're removing it all.
Ooh, not bad.
All of it, okay? If you're gonna take all of that, it's not coming in pricing, you know, so it's important. Location. Simple, yeah. So I'm gonna skip that, of course, where they are is important. Lot characteristics. So I'm in,
You just stepped up.
I'm in northern Montgomery County a lot. Lots are crucial when it comes to houses. You know, it's crucial. 2 acres on this lot doesn't mean the same thing on that lot. What are they backing to? You know, where are they? That's a conversation you're going to be needing to have with them when you're doing a comp analysis. View. I have a listing right now. There are 2 houses on the market at the same time. When I went to interview for the listing, my listing, the one that I went for, has a silo in the back. It's off onto the right corner. And I spoke to her directly about that. This is coming on feedback for you. You're going to hear about this. If these 2 houses sell, they went in on the same, almost within a day of each other. This could be an issue. So what you're looking at does matter. And the conversation with them on that becomes very important, that you do it up front. You know, up front as much as possible. Locational issues. Any type of, so on this one, I'm thinking of this. There's one area in Montgomery County, there's a bird that's protected. And it comes up every time I have to go for a listing in there. Because if they're anywhere near that bird sanctuary in the back, that house is taking a while to sell. Because cleanup, fixing of that home, all of that, you know, that near that Clarksburg, it's not, like, it's gonna be a bit. So you need to know that. If you don't know and you're starting out, there's somebody in the office that knows. You know, there's somebody in the office that knows. Ask somebody, hey, do you know, like, what could possibly affect this, you know? So you kind of need to know the locational issues. Okay, subject location, are there easements, driveway services? Again, this is for larger lots. This becomes kind of crucial, is what kind of encroachment easements are on there, where they can build and not build. Those building restriction lines are important. If they know it, you'll get that information at the time that you're there. If you are aware of it in advance, power lines, you know, that's an easy one. Anything that you think is gonna affect sale, but you kind of need to know, and this will structure your thought. Is it near a designated environmental site, you know? Restrictive covenants, what do they mean? Well, in Washington, D.C., it means all kinds of things as to who's going in and out. So, go through that. Okay, miscellaneous is anything that would, for me, this section, I mean, there's some listed here, you know, there's little sales activity, but for example, the fact that it was a custom neighborhood, that's gonna affect sale. There's no 2 like homes. So when it comes to appraisal, we might have issues. I'm talking to them about that. The conversation with them, I'm telling them, hey, look, we might hit this, so that when we do, they're saying, okay, see, she did tell me that. Okay, condition of the property. Obviously, you're gonna get that while you're there. Here are some things that affect, you know, sale there. This one, odor. If you're not looking at the houses, how do you guys know if there was like an odor in a competing listing? Like, you're not gonna know. So the visit is important, because these things will affect pricing of that house, pricing of the one you're interviewing for. Jen, can you leave up? Thank you. Okay, this section. you're not gonna be able to do this until you're in the house again, okay? After you're done, maybe you're coming back to complete this to help you. Sometimes you can kind of do it ahead depending on how well you know. Farm area for me, this is super easy, you know, I'm like, okay, I know that house. Okay, but these are repairs and recommended repairs. I'm really tight on my recommended repairs. If it's something that's gonna affect sale, they're gonna know about it in advance. You structure your words very carefully. You do, go ahead.
Sorry, to go back to the previous paragraph, how do you address odor with the listing that you're interviewing with, if there is an odor, without offending them?
So what I'll generally do is when I'm initially going through the house with them, I'm writing, like for example here, I'm writing notes on that house. I usually don't talk to them about it in the beginning,
Okay.
okay? I've jotted myself a note here and they'll see it written. And then what I do is once I've gone through my marketing, once I'm to the section of things that they ought to be doing, because we're leafing through the little book with them, right? Then I'm addressing it there. And I say to them, you know, very gently, and I'll say, you know, there's one thing that I noticed as I was walking through. Do you perhaps have a pet? You know, no, we don't have any dogs or cats, or maybe they do. Well, you know, I noticed that there was an odor right there. And I noticed it, so the buyer's gonna notice it. Usually if you phrase it that way, and it's all in phrasing, you know, so if it's like, oh my God, that odor is strong, no. You know, but like, you know, I noticed, do you have that? No. You know, I noticed that there was this. Here's some ways we can address this. They're okay.
Is that in one of the lists that getting your house ready for market?
Yeah, it's on the tips of selling. That's the only one that carries the tips of selling, addresses the odor for me. That's why I have that one in there, yeah. Okay. Be as blunt as you can with them here, gently, you know. This is really nice. Always try to balance this section. I always try to give them a positive too, if I'm gonna, you know, give them a negative. Hey, you know, I love that sunroom. Beautiful light, but it's not neutral. You know, I'm gonna need that to be neutral. I love that that there's a skylight. But the fact that it's leaking, we're gonna need to address that. You always try as best as you can to take the time to give them a kudo with a, you know, this isn't gonna work. And usually they'll respond but they're fine with that. If you're just slamming them, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good, they'll tell you. You know, and this is a conversation that you're having with them, so if you're getting the feedback that you're not doing, you're in a listening presentation, you're like, okay, they're not taking this well, slow down. Come back to it, do something else, address it later, go to a positive, you know, but you're assessing in that situation what they can take, but at the same time, you're being honest and truthful and genuine, and you're giving them what they need to do.
In a situation where the person can't or doesn't want to make the changes, what do you?
As is price. You're having a discussion with them as to what impact that's going to have on price. You know, and I'll say that, you know, I understand, you know, that's your position, but it will impact price. That's usually how I present it, you know? And they agree. There's rarely a time they don't know. They'll nod. They'll say, yeah, but how much? Is it worth doing it, you know? Yeah, that's the discussion. If cosmetics are easy, but if it just does not show well and it's not gonna move, they can't do anything, well then we're gonna have to accommodate for price.
Hey, Seema, can I just interrupt for 1 second as I have a luncheon engagement? I just wanted to publicly thank Seema for coming here and sharing this expertise with you all. I will say this, that, you know, over the years, I've seen probably 3 or 4 times presentation here. I have a kind of a favorite saying when I go and talk to real estate agents within our company, and I say, do you have a listing presentation? And many of them will say, yes, they have one, and you remember what I say is, make it better. Tear it apart. And I will say, over the years and having seen what Seema does, it's gotten better. Not that it was shabby to begin with, but it's gotten better and better and better. And so I follow that up with something else I asked the audience. Imagine yourself going out on a listing appointment and you're competing against Seema. Who wants and looks forward to doing that? Okay, but the point there is, this is your competition day in and day out when you're going and getting listings, and don't take for granted. There's a lot of great agents in competition. Tear it apart, make it better so that you compete, because what you need to do when you see something like this, how do you beat a person like this? Okay? And she does a lot of things phenomenally well, and thank you so much for sharing this. But these are some of it, in addition to all the stuff you're getting here, this is really how you kind of need to frame it, is control listings because you control product. And you've got to have a great listing presentation. You know, getting the lead is hard enough, but if you go in and stub your toe, so take this and run with it, and take your listing or your listing presentation, look at it and say, I gotta make it better. And make it better and better and better, and don't ever think that you can rest completely on your laurels, because everybody else that's competing in the marketplace, they're making theirs better. But thank you, it's just, I hear people, little conversations about, this is very comprehensive. So, congratulations, thank you very much, Seema. You know, I appreciate it, and hey, Happy New Year, 2017,
Happy New Year.
be a great one.
Okay, I'm gonna speed up just a little bit. So, inspections. We had rule changes in Maryland that they come in Virginia. You guys, I'm trying to stay caught up on VA too, but I don't have a license here. So, did you guys get the radon changes, and did they come here as well?
No.
No, okay. So Maryland has had changes in the law as far as inspections. So before, where it was only required, you know,
Is it just Montgomery County or is it all
It's,
Maryland?
it's
Maryland.
all of
It's
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah, it's all of Maryland. So I want to say this, Virginia is not behind, because I looked at what's coming up on their list of things that they want to review. The radon law is on there. And it's because it's consumer protected. So I have a feeling you guys will see it. You're not seeing it now?
Mandatory versus customary?
Yes, it's mandatory for us now.
Mandatory.
And so in that case scenario, have that discussion here, okay? Put that in your mind, okay, you know, at some point I'm gonna be talking to them about what they're gonna be paying for and what they're gonna see. Radon for Maryland is now seller determined mandatory. You guys aren't gonna be that far behind. I've seen it on your agenda, those things that are coming up. So with that in mind, just remember that. Any other inspections that you would recommend while you go through the house? Let me give you an example on this. I went through the listing, and what I noticed is they had aluminum wiring. Okay. You can visualize it, you know, when you're going through the home. If you're not familiar with it, interesting. You know you're gonna hit it on the inspection, right? So here I'm having that conversation with them. I noticed you have aluminum wiring in your home. Big blue. I don't know those conversations. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. You know, because in the beginning people would say these things to me and I'd be like, oh my God, what does that mean? It's okay, because there's someone here that does. You know, and you have that person as a resource. But for me, what I did was, because I just didn't know houses well enough in the beginning, and I felt like a fish out of water. I don't do well when I'm a fish out of water. I really need to know what I'm doing, and I'm more comfortable in my skin when I'm doing that. I went around with a home inspector for 2 months because I wanted to know what it is that I'm looking at. I'm not a home inspector, but I want to know. So when I'm here, I'm saying to them, you have aluminum wiring. We're seeing this. I would recommend that you have an electrician come in here and take a look at that. Okay? Again, we're mandatory. I know you guys are not. You're gonna hit it on home inspection. So the more you know, you look knowledgeable in front of them. And that, when I call them for feedback, whether they're calling me to say I don't have the listing or I do have the listing, that's my only question to them at that time. Thank you if I have the listing, and may I ask why you chose me? Knowledge base across the board. And it's because the more you know, the better it is. And you can learn it. you know? Subject property issues that ensure the insurability of the water. I'm sorry, I was going to water, of the property. Water. If you have a positive clue report, you may not get insured. Everybody know what that is? Maryland, you're hearing it all the time now. Okay, that's gonna affect them. I'm asking them that. Aluminum wiring. You're not getting insured. Probably. You can find some, but you're gonna have to contend with. Liberty Mutual was one of the last ones, and now they're even saying, no, I wanna know that that's verified, you know? So if you're aware of that, you're writing that here, hey, I'm looking for this, you know, I'm looking for these things. This is a conversation I'm gonna be having. Required disclosures, I've already addressed with them what the required disclosures are, and they're put in the back of the book pre-filled out, the brochure that's gonna be in their home. Financing. You listed condo, that's not FHA approved. I cannot tell you how many times I am calling an agent to say, hey, is your listing FHA approved? Yes, there's a list. There's a list, they have no idea. If it is not FHA approved, there's only a certain type of loan that can go on it. Pricing is affected. So you have to know that. Yeah, majorly. I have one right now. She's like, well, you know, I think it's worth this. And I was like, no, because you're not FHA approved. It's worth this. And let me show you why. Oh, okay. You need to know that. Closing costs, what are expected? If you see 6 listings there, you pulled a bunch of them, you know, subdivision first. If you see 6 of them and there's closing costs in every one, you know that's a discussion you're going to be having with them. Any issues that you might anticipate. What this did for me is structure my thought as to an addition in the back or whatever, because I had that case where they did an addition with no permits. And so it affected the sale of that home. And now I'm asking, I noticed that's an addition. Did you do that during your time or after? You're structuring your thought to come up with that right price. So that's important. Planning and development. Same thing. Condo is where it becomes most important. Condo ownership. The rates here are still 15 and 51. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, so the condo delinquency rate has to be 15% or lower for them to get FHA financing, and the owner occupancy must be above 51. That has not changed. There is a law on our books. Maryland is going to see it. They want to raise the condo delinquency rate to 62%. I cannot wait because it will raise pricing in those areas where you know, it's just non-FHA because of that. Virginia is going to be right smack behind them because that's a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mae change that's going to come. And so with that in mind, you know, you guys will see that. But Maryland's starting to see it. HOA fees, you know, what's included, that's important. Don't tell them they're going to, you know, the oncoming buyer, they're going to get something they're not. Okay, I am going to speed. Okay, so subject neighborhood, this is where you decide what's going to be the neighborhood comp analysis for that. For me, I always pull subdivision first. If it is not in a subdivision, not in that immediate subdivision, with 6 sales or greater, I go to a 5-mile radial. Initially, 2 miles if I can get it, and then that 2 miles, I like that. You can just do a radial right on your MRIS. You can just do a radial plan on it. But 2 miles, 5. No greater than 5. It's very hard to push appraisers greater to 5. Now, for those of you that are in Fredericksburg, and for me, that I'm in Damascus and areas like that, they will accept up to 10 miles radial, but you have to show them that it's, you know, rural. Okay, so what the definition of that? The definition is not everything in that neighborhood. No, usually my definitions are something like all 4 bedrooms, 2.5, at least 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, in this price range, 1 car garage or none, or whatever that. They're pretty defined because you're trying to get it to within 10, 15 listings if you can. You know, and you can do that as you further define your area. Okay, absorption rate.
Seema, just got a question from Facebook. Judy Gamble wanted to know, how do we learn how pricing is affected if condos aren't FHA approved?
Okay, so what you're gonna notice is that you will see the last few sales be either conventional or cash. And if that is the trend, you take that pricing, not something from, 2 months ago that may have gone on a conventional. So I have one right now where the 3 months ago, it qualified conventional. Every sale in that area since then has been cash only. So when I call the management to find out, what has happened, condo delinquency rate is high. I only use those second set of comps, even though you can go back to 6 months. The appraiser will allow you a 6-month back rate, but you can't do that. You only go back to where you're affected. Okay, absorption rate. Have you guys ever calculated out an absorption rate? Anybody else? Oh, I know you have. So what it is how long is that listing going to stay on the market before it's absorbed, based on what's around. For this, I do a 10-mile radius. And the reason is on that absorption rate, it is because you can say days on market in any given subdivision may be low, but they have a lot of competition occurring around them, especially if they have builder competition. This really comes into play depending on how many spec homes that builder has pending. And so if that's the case scenario, this becomes important. What you do here is you take the average number of sales per month for the last 6 months. So if there's 15 divided by 6, let's do easy. 12 divided by 6, 2 is the average. Current available, 8. It's going to take 4 months to sell it. Because they're going to ask you, how long am I going to be here? Well, your subdivision says this, but within and around you, this is what's going on, and that's going to be your absorption rate. When you do this for them, they're like, wow, because this is factual. You can show them. Okay, marketing incentives. If you're providing any of this, technically you covered the majority of this in your big book. So there's not really any major corporations moving in and out. We have an entire area that's undergone severe revitalization, and because of that, the pricing has shot up 33%. So you're covering that here. And then broader market area. If you're looking at things, okay, it's this area, but I really need to add this city too. In rural areas, for us, sometimes we're doing that addition. Okay, Jeff. All right. Here's the comp breakdown in itself. Okay, so if you can't figure it out, in the custom neighborhood, I use this. I hadn't used it. I used it. It's kind of in my head now, so I use it, during every prep phase. I'm using it anyway. I'm already doing absorption rates. I'm already doing things like that. But I just needed to set it on paper. So here's a way for you to set it on paper. It's really self-explanatory. You're going to pick 3 competing listings. This is the subject property, okay? Sometimes you can't do this until you leave. If you can do it earlier, it's better, because your mind is already structured to that. Usually I can do that. I will fill out these sections. If you leaf through, and you can see it's the breakdown of the house. Some key sections are, year built, lot size, gross living area, and then like total room count sometimes becomes real important, because they may have offices, 2 offices, both houses at 880 are not 880 worth, because one has this and this and this. So just really go through and I'm running short of time. So with that in mind, just any questions on this, but it will help you structure. I had an agent at our office that came and she was like, I honestly can't figure out how to price this thing. I just can't. She's in this neighborhood. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give you something, see if it helps you. I gave her this. She called me screaming, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm gonna talk to them about. Because it just kind of helped her just structure out her thoughts. Yeah. Okay. So there's 3 sold and 3 actives. If you need to do more, do more. I did more on my recent one just because the 3 didn't help. All right. Sorry, I'm running out of time.
No, I think everyone is getting a lot out of this for sure. So feel free
We
to.
started late, remember?
Yeah, don't cut
I'm so
yourself
sorry.
short.
Okay, so leaf through the last page. I want to go to the last Okay, if by any chance you guys have this filled out ahead of time and you actually do it, make sure you take it to the listing presentation with you. If it is sitting in front and they see that you filled it all out, you're gonna get the listing. Because they know how hard you worked, they can see that. Okay, this section right here, the most skipped, and everybody will tell you like, okay, this is easy. No, this is crucial. Okay, what are the 5 challenges to getting that thing sold? This is a #1 conversation that you're having with, this is one of my top conversations. I'm concerned about, that's how I phrase it. I'm concerned about this, but here's what we could do. Hey, we're selling in the winter months, traffic is slower, but we're gonna market aggressively. Here's what we're doing, Your house is non-neutral, but I love the floor plan, I love the layout. Getting this neutralized is really gonna expedite sale. Okay, so make sure in your head as you're going through, you're kind of getting out, okay, here's some issues here. And you're gonna know. What I do for this is I write it down because there's a tour for me, So when I'm at the house, my first listing presentation, I'm touring in the beginning. So I'm writing all this down. In my head, this is like the top section for me is what's gonna stop me from selling this house. Okay, what are you gonna do to fix it? Please do not leave them with a bunch of problems. Okay, that's not, you're there to help solve their issues as best as you can. There's some you're not gonna be able to do, and then the price discussion needs to occur because of that. But to just leave them with, this is awful, this is awful, this is awful, this is awful, is not fair. So try to figure out, like, what are some things as you're going through, as you're walking through, how are you going to fix this? In your head, it shouldn't just be this section. This should tag together for you. What are 5 creative ideas to getting that taken care of? Anything additional, this section here, I make sure I tell them. Do you know what the #1 complaint of the agent is, for an agent is, that goes on once they get the listing? What's the #1 complaint? It doesn't matter what state you're in, by the way. It's the #1 complaint for people when you get the listing.
That the seller doesn't do what you asked them to do?
No, so it would be a complaint for you. Like, that's it. Responsiveness and non-communication. Okay. Responsiveness and non-communication. It doesn't matter what your state you're in. Okay. With that said, this section for me, I'm telling them, you're going to hear from me every Monday. At a bare minimum. If we're getting an offer and I'm getting feedback that's not positive, they're going to hear from me more. They're going to hear from me. On Monday, they're going to get a market analysis via email with a breakdown as to what's gone over the weekend and why their home isn't gone. What the feedback was, what I did, plan for next week. I'm telling them that right here. That's their #1 thing. I listed the house and the agent never called me back. It sat on there for 6 weeks. I never heard from them unless I called them. That is not going to be the case for me. You're going to hear from me Monday. If I have not received feedback from you, you're going to get my email. If all the feedback comes in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you will get it then. And if you guys see my, those of you that are on my Facebook, that's what I'm doing. Obtaining feedback, because I'm going to need to provide that. It's coming. So you have that discussion right about here. Just have that in mind that you need to have that discussion at some point. And then your most likely sales price. It's going to be broken down. Once you go through this entire thing, you'll see it'll settle your brain to where you're like, okay, I got this. Questions on this? I'm sorry, I couldn't go over it in details, but
back to the previous section about what you're asking your seller to do or what they're able to do and what's
listed repairs?
Right, what's cost effective. How do you answer a seller, like, sometimes you want them to update something and it's not necessarily gonna bring them more money on paper, but it will speed up the sale, which at the end of the day is more money, right? So if you have a seller that says, my neighbor's selling and they have a finished basement, I don't, do you think it's worth it for me to finish my basement to sell it? What would your response be?
My response would be based on what has sold in the past, if the finished basement sold faster, and if that was the case, how much faster? And what price they got. It's not a dollar per dollar return on the basement being finished. So if it's not a dollar per dollar return, what does it mean to them, and do they have the capital to be able to do it? How fast is it moving that house with that? I try, if I know I'm going into an unfinished basement, especially if they're telling me, like I have one right now where it's an unfinished basement, I have the discussion with her up front. Here's what it means. Hey, by the way, the last 3 that sold that had unfinished basements took an extra 35 days. And this was the price difference. I always try to stick to stats if I can find them. Every now and then you just can't.
Seema, what do you do with this when you're through? Do they ever ask for it, or you know?
Oh my god, I get requests for it all the
I
time.
know.
All the time. Can we have that? No, this is for me to structure my thoughts and make sure, but you can look at it, you know, I let them look at it right there.
What about that package?
Okay, I'm gonna go over that.
No,
But I'm gonna do it very quickly.
No, I'm just saying, oh, okay,
That's separate.
okay.
No other questions? Can you please flip me back to, yeah. Okay, so we're still in pre-planning phase, that's done now. The day before the listing appointment, remember you'd made them a promise? Follow through. Okay, do what you said. Okay, listing appointment. Be on time. I'm gonna go over this super quickly because we are almost done. Be on time. If you're not gonna be on time, if you're gonna be 5 minutes late because traffic is bad, please call. Just let them know that. Text them. Pull over, text them. Don't drive and text. But pull over and text them. Tell them you're gonna be late, you know, and why. People are so easy. Thank you, Andrew. I called him panicking today. But are you late, I think, you know, and no, it didn't end up being the case. But let them know. He was great. It's fine, don't worry. I got here, but that's not the point. Give them a heads up if you're gonna be late.
And I appreciated it.
Thank you. Dress professionally. I'm not gonna say any more than that. But I'm only gonna add one small addition. The product you are selling is not the house. The product you're selling is you. So if you go in not prepared in every way, it's going to show. They're not gonna respond well to that. So dress professionally. Introduce yourself to them, give them a card, you know, right at the door. Ask where they would be most comfortable. It's the easiest thing to do, but like I've seen it, and one of the agents that at our office, she said, I put her back up at edge because I just went to the table. They didn't want her at the table. They wanted her on the kitchen, near the kitchen counter where it was more comfortable, and the kids would, whatever. Ask them where they're most comfortable. Place your belongings there. Ask for a tour of their home. You're going through. On the tour, this was blank initially. This is a listing that I did. But as I'm going through, I listed what was going on with that listing. In this particular listing, there's nothing for me here. And the reason is I went through the listing, they'd done pretty much everything. I didn't have here's a to-do list. Otherwise, you would see it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is their public record. Okay? So I would do that. This is my package to keep. They're keeping the little book. I'm taking the big book. And this is mine to keep as well. So this is my notes to myself. Okay, so as you're going through, you're writing. They want to see you interested in their home. So be writing, and comment. You're establishing that relationship. This is nice, okay? Do not give them negative feedback right there unless they ask for it. Because a lot of times that will put their back up, and this is your first initial long exposure to them. So try not to do that there. Talk to them about the upgrades as you go through the house. That's super important. They're so excited to talk about it. They've already given them to you up front. You're aware. But as you're going through, mention that again. Jot down issues at the top of the page. I mentioned that to you guys. Okay. Once they're done with that, because I've already covered what's in the books, so now I can just talk through it and we're done. Once they've done that, what I'm doing is we're going to the table where they said. And I literally will go through. This is put together, right? Done pre. And I'll literally just go through the book with them. Okay, here's the programs and services AveryHess offers. Here's this. All the stuff I talked to you guys about before in the little book, I go through that with them. Okay? Once the little book is done, I ask them if they have any questions on that. Because I tell them that we're going to cover the marketing plan separately. No, I have no questions. Usually by then they don't have questions. Here and there you may get one. But usually by then they're not, especially if you've gone through all that stuff. Then I take the big book out. Okay, we're going to go over marketing. I am not talking to them about a comp analysis. I am not talking to them about anything else right now. this is what I'm gonna provide for you next. Okay. Usually when I'm done with the book, you know, the response kind of is like, they're a little overwhelmed and like, wow, you know, kind of thing. So, okay, you know, I'm not sure, you know, what we have. Okay, everything's in the little book for you, I say to them. You know, in your book. I don't call it a little book there, but in your book, please feel free to review that, you know, when I'm not here. Okay, now we're gonna go over comp analysis. Okay, on the comp analysis, I flip to their section in the comp analysis, okay? They go to their section, and what I do is, for me, I take out my stuff. This was my comp analysis when I went through the house. They will see that I wrote notes. You want them to see that. Because you're saying, as I saw this listing on your behalf, here's my feedback on that listing. Now you've toured their home, you can speak to them on that. Here's mine. You want them to see what you did. If you've done an ERC BMA, you know, I completed a market analysis, an in-depth market analysis for you. Here's what I found. You want them to see that you did that work. Okay, you go through, you do the stats, like I said, you go through the book, you go over, I always, by the way, I'll skip the award section. They have it, I always tell them it's there. I'm most uncomfortable, you know, the whole banging your own drum is not my thing. I'm not comfortable with it, they can see it. If you have referral letters, I tell them the referral letters are there. They're there for them to look through. I skip through that really, really quickly. Then I go over the big book, ask if they have any questions. I go over the repair list and pricing at that point. They're done together. Here's what I noticed. Okay. Post-listing. You're done, you thank them. At this point, it's been an hour and a half, usually, you know, hour 15 minutes, something like that. You thank them for their time, you leave, you follow it up with, I used to send them a note, and now I don't do that, I'll send them an email. You know, at the very least, I send them a text. You know, but that's usually the very least for me. I really do try to send them an email. Thank you so much for your time, I really appreciate it. Do you have any questions? That's it.
We have another question from Facebook Live from Judy Gamble, who wants to know, do you give them your recommended upgrades while you're competing for the listing? If not, how do you sidestep that question? I've seen presentations that say don't give that info until you get the listing agreement. Your thoughts?
I give them those thoughts right off the bat. When I'm there, I'm giving them what repairs need to be made. The majority of the people are looking for that feedback at that time. And for me, you just appear more knowledgeable when you're saying, okay, here's some things you need to do. Plus, I'm setting up that relationship in the beginning. Because there's going to be expectations of them as well, just as they're expecting things from me. So they're getting, from me, they're getting it from the beginning. Commission rate. Okay, so. Commission. I just finished the big book. I will not talk to them commission part of that. They're pestering me. We're going to talk about that when I'm done. Okay. I am in charge while I'm there. They need me in charge. They're hiring me as they don't want all these messy lines everywhere where they're in charge sometimes, I'm in charge that. No, it's a relationship. But during the sale of that, I'm in charge. So no, we're not going to talk about it prior to all the marketing that's being provided. I just finished that. The commission question is usually coming there. How much does that cost me? 6%. It's a 3 and 3 split, and I keep 3, it's 3. Well, I have another agent who's going to do it for 4. Okay. They are? Yes. Out of that, what may I take out? You choose. No. Well, no, that's that, I want that. You want all of that? Yes. They're providing all of that at 6%?
No, it's 4%.
I'm sorry, at 4%, sorry? They're providing that at 4%? All of that? I think so. You don't know? You met with them, they told you 4%, and you're not sure? Well, I think they are. You do. Okay. If they're providing every one of those items for for 6, because what they'll say to me is, we want you, but we want you to do it for 4. I'm not doing it for 4. No, okay, and I do want to say this. It's your business. If you're getting a sale off of them, they've just sent a sister to you. I had this situation. They gave me the sister, they gave me, they bought from me, and then, oh, by the way, my son is buying too. Will you sell this house at 4? You're independent contractors. Make the right decision, for the situation. But generally speaking, you're doing this for, I had one. He says he's going to do it for 2.5. He is, get him. I did, that's exactly what I said. Get him, immediately. He's doing all of that for 2.5%, get him. He called me within a week. All right, 4.5 deal? No. That is at X rate. And I might decide, because this is live, you decide, you control your business. So you need to decide what is okay with you. But with that said, you decide. 2%, not half. That's how I address it. Usually they're so overwhelmed by everything you've gone through, and when you tell them, take out the advertising you don't want. Because, it's X rate for this. They're just not doing it. That's why it's important, because the commission question is going to come up.
What about the pricing question, that this is your range and then they want to go above it?
Okay. So what I do for that is I say to them, okay, look, I brought you comps and this is what it's showing, right? Your absorption rate is X, okay, based on this. Your days on market subdivision is this. I will do a market analysis for you and find out within a 5-mile radius of you, I'll get back to you on this. Because if they're going above price, I want a concrete number to go back with them on. If I go up X amount of dollars, how long is it going to take to sell that house? What has happened in the past? I will call you back with that.
And then is your presentation 2 parts or 1?
1. Generally 1.
Do you have that 30 days from contract to settlement, available?
Yes, I do. And Andrew, I think I gave that to you last time. If not, I can make sure Erin gets that to you.
Okay. And by the way, all of the this presentation, or I should say the abridged version that you have in your hands, as well as the RCBMA, that will be available through the agent, so you'll be able to look at that.
And it's pretty awesome because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is AveryHess provided. Use it. Nice and free.
I have a last question. So if you have already done comps and know kind of basic price range that is good for that particular house, and maybe they've agreed to commission, and if they're comfortable with the price, would you, you can ask if they want to sign the contract then, right? Or do you normally wait and give them time to think?
I always give them time to think.
Do you always give them?
Yeah. Every now and then I'll be walking out the door and they'll say, did you bring a listing presentation? Call me tomorrow. I do want them time to think. I want them to know exactly what they're doing by hiring me. And some people will say, sign them up right there. If you got them, you sign them up. No. Because if that house doesn't go for me, you thought about it, you signed up with me, we talked about it, you had a chance to think over it. This is not I am not an in-your-face hard sell at all. I am a numbers, here's what I'm service-oriented for me. And Andrew will tell you, all my logos, everything carry one item. I am branded completely, and that is service is key. So a hard sell, we're signing them up there right now, sign on the dotted line, that's just not consistent with who I am as a person. So for me, that doesn't work. If it works for you and you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
Because you're amending, this is so we get ideas. And you still have to be you. It's just not me. But if you can do it and you can sign them up, do it.
Okay, and then my last question is, let's say you got the listing and you did what you promised to do, 30 days, maybe 60 days later, there's not a whole lot of traffic,
Mhm.
they're not questioning you. How would you respond to situations like that?
Okay. So we're talking every Monday. So we're having those conversations. Here's what I'm getting on feedback. here's what I have found out. Here's what has gone in your neighborhood. So we've been talking every single Monday at a bare minimum. We've had good communication with us. At that point, usually at the 30-day mark, I have brought up that initial conversation of, this is not working. Here's everything that I did for you. You see that. There's no problems there usually. They'll say, yeah, it's not working. Okay, then we're looking at a price reduction. And that's first approached at the 30-day mark for me.
I have a question about price reduction. So I have a client from my other thing that I do, who's a realtor, and she said, you know, she was like, when we sign the contract, she said, I always have them sign a price reduction agreement.
Yeah.
She was like, the one time I didn't, the guy refused to look, and he was like way out of range with what he wanted. It took forever. Like, it finally sold, but it took forever. Do you do something like that where it's like, you know, we'll keep it at, you know, at this price after, you know, X number of days or whatever, we're gonna reduce by whatever, like, what, do you have like a form for that? How do you do that?
There is a form, like through Maryland, again, there is a form that you can, it's kind of pre-done, it's not sort of official, you can find it online, you know, it's like, okay, that's if you're listing high in the beginning, I use it. I really don't like to use that form, you know, they're agreeing to list where I want them to, they're reducing at that. But I do wanna say that, you know, again, it is a relationship that we're building, and if he or she is not gonna reduce the price when things are not working, it's a two-way street. So sometimes it doesn't work where you're like, I can't sell it here. It's time to take it off.
I usually tell sellers right up front that if I'm going to be doing all these things that I promised, and if we're not getting any activity, chances are we're priced high.
Right.
Because there is a lot of activity in the area. Now, if we get a lot of activity and no offers, no verbal interest, then there's something physical we need to change. So I tell them that right up front before we received any feedback.
That's
So they're
awesome.
kind of prepped for that.
Yeah, whatever you can do to prep them is great. I usually don't have that conversation right off the bat unless, and my office will tell you sometimes that they're like, we want to price it $50,000 higher. I will not do it. I'm like, no. 10, 15, oh my God, they'll hear me. I'm like, no. We want you, we want you, we want you. I am not coming in at $50,000 because you're going to take it from me.
You're spending a lot of money
Yeah,
and
oh
time.
my God,
Yeah.
no.
For a listing you know will not sell.
Will not go.
Yeah.
10, 15, that's really borderline. Then you have that conversation about, okay, you know, get the listing and then, hey, if this doesn't go, we're gonna, but I had one where they were like, 50 and we'll go in $25,000 increments. No.
Then you're chasing.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
I lost a listing that I walked away from years ago, and it was because I told the gentleman, I am not in a position, or am I interested in just putting my name in your yard?
Yeah.
And by me promising you this high price, or putting on the market this high price just to test things out, that's what I'd be doing.
Right.
And I just told him, you're gonna find someone else.
Right.
We ended up selling for less over time. No, but he ended up, I mean, it was a bad financial situation for him, but you're doing them a disservice
Right.
if you just wanna put your name in the yard.
Right. And that, it goes back for me for service is key.
Right.
So I would do it.
You ever ask for retainer fees?
I personally have not. I don't have any problems with someone who says they would like that. If you can do it, it is your business. More power to you. It is not something I have done.
Okay. For my question, because I had like 3. So things like, do you ever do staging and who pays for that?
Okay. So, yes, and now we have virtual staging too. So there are 4 firms, you can use them, everybody's doing them, it's called a virtual stage. You pay, I think it's an extra $199 a picture, and they'll virtually stage it for you without ever having to rent furniture. Awesome on a property that you just need it on, you know? Yes, I've done that. It depends on the listing. If I think I'm gonna have a hard time, or I'm having a hard time initially, because sometimes when they look at the numbers, usually a staging on a room is, you know, each room, it's gonna depend on the stager. But generally speaking, the range is somewhere between $300 and $500 a room, you know, for a month to rent something. The virtual staging is simply cheaper, and we are starting to go to it a lot in Maryland. Like foreclosures, they're starting to use it on the foreclosures, and I'm thinking, I know that foreclosure didn't look like that, and then it will say virtual staged. So it carries that on the picture. So the
that
answer
way
is
they can
yes.
kind of see the picture online of what
Yeah.
looks like a furniture, but then they actually go
Yes,
in
and if it's a contemporary that you're doing, they'll give you the design aspect to say, do you want contemporary or do you want French provincial or whatever it is?
And do you pay for that?
Yes.
Would you say that's better on a vacant home, or?
It depends on the listing. So
The
if,
market.
yes, there is smaller houses that will go better. But a large, big vacant rooms that they're, looking at sometimes, no, you actually need the staging. It really depends on what that feedback is for me. Generally, I won't immediately go to a stage unless, the feedback is like, I really can't tell. Or if it's a difficult home, I've gone to a stage. There was a listing I went to an immediate stage because the rooms were so weird that it just was that I knew that they weren't going to have any concept of that family room. It kind of ran in and an island came, it was a weird looking concept. So with that, I went to an immediate stage on that because that area was done a certain way, and even though they moved out, we did it back to that way, close to it, so people could see and it sold better.
I remember that. Have you ever had someone that's like, we need to move now, like
Yeah.
we need to sell it now, we need to move now, what do you do with that, and then what do you do as far as like giving them a timeline of, okay, you're meeting with me today, we'll be able to get it listed by?
Okay, so for me, usually, Realtor Inc. takes 3 days. You have to call them in advance for 3 days to get the pictures done. I'm never putting a listing on the market without pictures. I don't care what it looks like. It's gonna have those shots. So, they know already there's a 3-day delay. If there is a rain delay, they know I'm adding additional time. I don't want my pictures taken when there's rain. Realtor knows that, we have a relationship, so they full well know. So there may be a delay there. So I'm telling them that, hey, at a bare minimum, you're gonna see a 3-day delay. And then if there is a rain or a snow or a weather delay of some type, there may be an additional 2 or 3 days. You're looking at about a week. If you want me to put your house on the market without any pictures, here's the cons to that. And there's an entire article you can.
So you wouldn't do your own pictures and then change up?
No,
You're not a photographer.
I'm not a photographer. And beyond that, the criticism from, like, it's not going, you put it on and there's no traffic that first week and because that's your biggest bang for your buck anyways, that first time you're on and your first presentation is nominal. It's just not me. It's gonna be a big bang, and I'm telling them that first bang is gonna be a big bang. There's people that have been waiting for that house to come.
Well, I would think that would be part of your sort of arguing your commission is
Exactly.
the photography, the staging, those things are coming out of my pocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
No other questions? Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thanks so much, Seema, and everyone. There are surveys at the back that you should see in the packet that you got when you came in. Please fill them out. This really helps us determine what kind of star sessions we're going to have in the future. And again, if you'd like to see the new listing presentation that Seema talked about, that's also on Be Agent. And we hope to see you next month for our next star session. I'm sorry?
You tell Andrew and Jen. Andrew.
There you go. Yes.
Andrew.
Oh, can you please put the surveys, can you leave them up there?
They're
Yes.
asking if they can buy the big book. Do you have that?
Buy that?
Yeah. Do you have, AveryHess had a portfolio package you could get.
I thought that was just yours. I've never seen the.
No, I bought it from AveryHess.
Oh, I'll have to go back into our files and confirm with you when you're done.
You can do it at an Art Deco store too. Yeah, you can do it at an Art Deco 6 months ago. She ordered it from Love. So either, well,